Howdy all. Today I'm going to be reading you my paper entitled Arguing for a Neutral Universe. Here goes nothing. We humans have long sought to make sense of our existence. We often go about this by categorizing the things around us. After all, how powerless can one be to control one's environment when you have the power to define it on your own terms? One of the most common, effective, and ancient methods of categorization we have used is whether something is good or bad. For example, natural disasters such as volcanic eruptions and devastating tornadoes often represented a threat to the life and livelihood of ancient civilizations. These would have been labeled as bad. A plentiful harvest and a successful hunt, however, would have been referred to as good. In even more basic terms, bad things were defined as whatever hurt oneself or another's chances of survival. What was good was delineated as whatever aided oneself or another's chances for survival. These statements most likely occur to you as being obvious. What is not so obvious, however, is another common way that we tend to make sense of the universe, which is the projection of our own nature upon it. This is commonly known as personification. Personification is the process by which human qualities are applied to things that are not human by nature. It makes sense that these cultures would personify the habitat around them with the attribution of human characteristics, because they would then have been able to make sense of it upon their own terms, aka the terms which we as a species understand best. Ancient religions are perfect examples of this phenomenon of personification. Just as a human being can be reasoned with as they give and take favorable outcomes based upon personal whim, the influx of chaotic and unpredictable events in nature would be interpreted as the displeasure or approval of a higher entity or entities which had direct influence upon the natural forces around them. For example, a volcanic eruption or massive tornado would signify the entities or singular entity, whether it's monotheistic or polytheistic sort of ideology. It would signify the displeasure of that entity or entities. A successful hunt would signify the entity or the entities or the universes, by extensions, approval. These became sacred signs meant to inform the civilizations as to whether they needed to right their ways or not. The problem with personifying the universe in a way which suggests an ultimate right or wrong to be considered as a standard which has been set by a universal entity or entities is that it isn't entirely accurate. This entity is a figurative projection which has been amalgamated to cater to our own preferences, not the universe itself. In other words, what these civilizations supposed was the universe coaxing them one way or another revolved around their definition of what was good and bad, not the universe's. Many of the popular religious ideologies propagated in the ancient civilizations allow us to look at the universe, and by extension our world, through rose-colored glasses in regard to our position within it. In other words, not only is there an absolute good or bad to be conformed to, but there was an assumed positivity bias which surrounded these universal ethics. This bias is that many of the entities had a benevolent outlook on human beings and wished at the end of the day favorable outcomes upon them. There was also, however, instances of negativity bias within religious ideologies. These were the wrathful and vengeful entities in other cultures which only sought destruction. They were forces to be continually contended against in the struggle to survive. My theory is that there is no inherent positivity or negativity bias in regard to human beings carried by the universe. I assert that we generate our own ethics, which have roots in the desire to thrive in our environments as effectively as possible within our given social structures, and applying what we favor to the universe as a whole helps us to better organize ourselves towards that goal, but it does not accurately define our place within it. Therefore, the pursuit of organization has trumped accuracy. Through the following two images, I will attempt to communicate why the universe is inherently neutral to our ethics and desires. The propagation of this approach may help to modernize our worldview. In the top corner here, you should see a picture of a piece of artwork of a young girl, and a beehive has infested her head here. And so this is why I use this as an example. Nature, and by extension the universe, doesn't care what the invasion of this artwork's form suggests. That the invasion of this artwork's form suggests an on the whole horrifying reality, or what we would consider to be bad. At least I'd hope that the majority of us consider a little girl with a cranium full of bees to be bad. If not, that's fine, but stand on the other side of the room, please. This is because nature is a product of the universe, and the universe is neutral towards humanly attributed purpose. In conclusion, we create form and attribute significance to our own lives, and by extension our artwork, not the universe. For my next example, I have a video and I have an image. So I'm going to cut to that video real quick now.
The shit you see out of state, a dead raccoon, and somebody that put a motherfucking get well balloon on this dead motherfucker. What the?
Alright, well, here we see a dead raccoon on the side of a highway with a get well soon balloon left beside its corpse. When an animal dies before it has lived out its expected lifespan, it is often due to a genetic code which was ill-suited for their environment. If an animal has genes which propel it to a long and healthy life, however, it can be stated that it was well suited for its environment. The same concept, of course, applies to human beings. What is unique about people, however, is that we consciously recognize the difference between traits which allow us to survive effectively and those which do not. The expression of these counterproductive traits in society becomes taboo. The expression of traits which benefit the individual or the whole of a social structure, however, are glamorized, praised, and rewarded. This is why I assert that our system of ethics is self-generated and malleable depending upon environment rather than an absolute set standard. You may notice that the burden is on us to adapt effectively to the universe, and by extension our environment, in order to survive. The world won't meet us in the middle. People, however, often want to do more than simply survive. They wish to thrive. This results in the sort of humanly asserted positivity bias which I described in the introduction. Nature itself has no mercy, as that would assume catering to individuals regardless of their environmental suitability. If any living creature becomes sick, it is irrelevant whether it lives or dies in the grand scheme of things. The only thing that matters is how effective it is at surviving. Human beings, however, assert that being sick is bad and being healthy is good. Here, the get well soon balloon is representative of this sentiment. It is a symbol for our desire and our wish for ourselves and others to thrive in our environment, as well as the idea that thriving is a good thing. However, to the universe, and by extension nature, sickness and death, as well as health and abundance, is neither good nor bad. It is simply another aspect of the circle of life. It is an irrelevant consequence of the physical laws which govern us all. This is why it is wrong to consider the universe as inherently positive or negative in regard to the pursuits of humanity. Positivity and negativity bias, as well as what is considered good and bad, is nothing more than a human-generated byproduct. As a closing statement here, I just want to say that I understand some of the statements that I made in this presentation may have been a little jarring or highly contradictory when considering many individuals' worldviews. And in that case, feel free to let this go in one ear and out the other. I'm not pushing this on anyone. There's no ulterior motive or agenda or anything behind it. I just simply ask that you honestly consider it. Thank you, and have a good day.